You have probably been told to pay off your smallest debt first or your highest interest rate first. And no one tells you the actual dollar difference between those two choices is sometimes less than $400. And no, you have not been doing it wrong this whole time. Okay, so here is what I actually did. I took a real, completely everyday loan, the credit card, $18,000 total, which, by the way, is not far off from what the lot of households are actually carrying right now. And I ran the exact mid both way, Snowball, where you attack the smallest balance first, regardless of your interest rate. Avalanche, where you attack the highest interest rate first, regardless of the balance. Same total debt, same extra payment every month. Only difference was the order. And the answer surprised me because it's not the dramatical thousands of dollar gap you see in the lots of these videos. Paying it off with the Avalanche method save about $637 in interest and got the whole thing paid off 3 months sooner. That's it. That's the entire gap between the method everyone fighting about online. Now, is 600 bucks nothing? No, it's real money. But if you have been sitting there thinking you picked the wrong method and you are bleeding thousands of dollars because of it, take a breath. You are probably not. So let's actually get into why the gap is so much smaller than people think. Because once you understand the mechanism, the whole snowball versus avalanche debt stop feeling so high stakes. Here is the thing both came kind of a gloss over. Interest is calculated on the balance that's currently sitting there every single month based on the card's APR. So when people talk about the avalanche winning mathematically, what they mean is every dollar of your extra payment you thrown at your highest APR card is a dollar that stop acquiring interest at the higher rate immediately. That's the whole logic. It's not magic. It's just you are neutralizing your most expensive debt first. But here is what actually determines how big the gap gets. And this is the part nobody explains well. It's not just the interest rate difference between your cards, it's the relationship between the interest rate difference and the size of your balance. If your interest rate card also happens to be your biggest balance, Avalanche is going to pull way ahead because you are knocking out the expensive stuff and the big stuff at the same time. But if your highest interest rate card is actually small balance, like a store card you open for a discount that's sitting there with a scary rate but only for 4 digit on it, the avalanche advantage shrinks a lot because there is not that much balance sitting at the highest rate to save you real money. That's exactly what happened in the example I ran. My highest rate card was not my the biggest balance. So Avalanche technically won. But it didn't win by much because the dollar sitting at the worst rate were a smaller slice of the total pie. Now it's time to flip it. Snowball. Snowball is not really a math strategy at all. And it was never trying to be. Dave Ramsey, who popularized it, built it around behavior, not interest rates. The entire premise is that the day payoff fails most when often not because people did the bad math, but because people quit. Life gets expensive, motivation drops, and if you don't see a win in the first month or two, it's incredibly easy to just stop trying and let the minimum payments run forever. Snowball engineers a fast emotional win. You knock out the smallest card in a few months. It's gone. One less bill, one less account staring at you. And the moment is what keeps people in the game long enough to finish. So, really, what you are choosing between is not the smartest method versus the method. You are choosing between optimizing for the lowest possible dollar amount paid versus optimizing for the highest possible odd that you actually finish. And depending on your specific depth, sometimes those two goals point in almost the exact same direction anyway, like they basically did in my example. And I want to pause here because if you are watching this with 3 or 5 or 8 open accounts and not in your stomach, I don't want you to walking away thinking, great, now I have to figure out which method is mathematically optimal for my exact situation or I'm failing. That's not the point of this video. Here is the actual truth. The system you are operating inside of was not built to make this easy. The average credit card APR right now is sitting north of 20%. Some cards were into the high 20s, which is dramatically higher than it was even 5 or 6 years ago. That's not a personal feeling on your part, that's the environment. Minimum payments are structured so that when a lot of card you are required to pay a little as on to 2% of your balance a month, which sounds helpful. But it's actually designed to keep the balance alive as long as possible because that's how the interest keep compounding in the lender's favor. You didn't stumble into a bad math problem by accident. You are navigating a system that profits from you staying confused about exactly this question. So, the fact that you are here comparing methods, trying to actually run the number instead of just guessing, that's already put you ahead of where the most people are, which is just making minimum payments on autopilot and hoping it eventually disappears. Practically, what do you actually do with all this? Start by just getting every single balance and every single interest rate written down in one place. Because most people who feel overwhelmed by the debt have actually never seen the full picture at once. It's living across four different apps and a stack of statements. And that alone make it feel bigger and scarier than it usually is. Once it's all in front of you, look at the shape of it. If one of your credit card has a noticeably higher rate and it also happening to carry a decent chunk of the balance, that's usually your signal to lean Avalanche because that's exactly the setup where the interest saving actually add up to something meaningful. But if your balance are pretty similar in size, or your smallest depth is also sitting there, nagging at you every time you check your balance, there is nothing wrong with knocking that out once out the first for the win. You are not going to meaningfully sabotage yourself, and if that quick win is what keeps you from quitting in a month or three, it was the worth more than whatever interest you left on the table. And honestly, a lot of people do a version of both without even labeling it that way. They will knock out one small annoying balance first just to simplify their accounts and then shift into attacking whatever's charging them the most after that. There is no rule that says you have to pick a religion here and defend it in the comment section. The other thing that actually moves the needle more than picking a method, call your credit card issuer and just ask if they will lower your rate, especially if you are paying on time. It doesn't work every time, but it costs you just 5 minute phone call and nothing else. And if it works, that helps both method at once because it shrinks the interest rate either way you are taking it. And if the math truly is not mathable, no matter what you do, if minimum payments alone are eating your whole budget, that's usually the point where it's worth looking into things like a balance transfer card or a non-profitable credit counseling agency rather than just while knuckling minimum payments and hoping. So, here is the actual takeaway. The gap between these two methods in most real situation is a lot smaller than the internet argument make it sound. It comes down to how you specifically balance and the rate lines up, not some universal winner. Avalanche uses saves you a little more money. Snowball usually keeps you in the game a little longer. And the version that actually works is the one you will stick with until the last balance hits zero. If this helped you actually look at your own balance instead of just picking a side, I would really appreciate a subscribe. I am building this channel especially for people who are into it right now, not just people reading it out of a curiosity. So, see you in the next video.